2 weeks ago, I thought I had found the ultimate escape from reality. The escape wasn't a place, or a person, or a substance. It was a game, or so I thought. It was supposed to be an adventure, a journey into the unknown. But as I sit here now, alone and terrified, I realize that my journey had been a plunge into a real-life nightmare. I'm a self-proclaimed tech geek and an ardent gamer. The moment I heard about Oblivion Quest, the newest VR horror game on the market, I was intrigued. It was rumored to be the most immersive, most reality-defying game ever created, and I just had to try it. I scrimped and saved to get the high-end VR setup, and finally, it arrived on my doorstep. The game was beautiful. I slipped on the VR headset, and my dingy studio apartment transformed into a gothic Victorian mansion with creaking staircases, flickering candelabras, and whispers of untold stories. The first couple of days were thrilling, liberating even. Each room held a new challenge, a new specter, a new riddle to unravel. There was horror, yes, but it was an exhilarating fear, a controlled terror that made my pulse race and skin tingle. It was just a game, after all. Until one night, something changed. I had just solved a particularly cryptic puzzle and banished a vengeful spirit back into a dusty old portrait. I felt a rush of triumphant adrenaline, and then I felt it. A cold breeze, a physical sensation in the virtual world. It made me shiver, and I paused, feeling a sudden prickle of unease. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just my mind playing tricks on me. Returning to the game, I began to navigate through the mansion's dimly lit corridors. A sense of dread began to settle in. I could swear I felt the cold stone under my feet, heard the distant wails of the damned, the ruffling of the moth-eaten curtains. My heart pounded. This wasn't right. This wasn't how the game was supposed to be. I decided to call it a night. I reached up to remove the headset, but I couldn't. My hands met with nothing but air. I was trapped. Panicking, I tried to force my eyes open, hoping to see the familiar sight of my small apartment. But the horrific game world remained my reality. The chill of the breeze intensified, seeping into my bones. Desperate, I attempted to navigate to the game's exit, a grand wooden door at the end of the main hall. However, as I moved towards it, the hall elongated, the door seeming to move further away with every step. I was running now, heart hammering in my chest, the ghoulish whispers growing louder. It felt like I was being watched, hunted. Suddenly, I was grabbed from behind, a spectral hand pulling me back. I let out a scream, my skin crawling as the icy fingers gripped tighter. In my struggle, I tripped and fell onto the cold stone floor. I felt the sharp pain shooting up my arm. My scream echoed through the mansion, bouncing off the tall stone walls, and I froze, listening to the fading echoes. That's when I heard it, my own voice calling out from the hallway of my apartment. "Hey, anyone in there?" it called, sounding muffled and distant. Then I remembered. I had invited my friend Alex to check out the game this evening, but the words weren't comforting. Instead, they brought a new wave of terror. I was trapped in this horrifying game, and my real body was somewhere outside this nightmare, alone and vulnerable. Confusion swirled with the terror that was already clenching my insides. Could Alex hear me? I mustered up all the courage I could find and screamed again. This time, not from fear, but with a purpose, hoping my voice would carry beyond the game. "Alex, help me!" For a moment, there was silence. The disembodied voices and distant howls that seemed to perpetually echo around the mansion fell quiet, leaving only the pounding of my heart to disturb the stillness. Then, I heard a response, faint and filled with confusion. "Dude, are you okay? You're yelling pretty loud." Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The game didn't pause for real-life interruptions. A low growl resonated through the hallway, sending a shiver down my spine. I turned slowly, the fear once again seizing control of my senses. Before me, a figure materialized, its shape twisted and grotesque, its eyes glowing like fiery coals. The entity moved towards me. Each step it took was followed by a heavy thud, an unnatural rhythm in this melody of horror. I could see no escape, no hope. Just as the terror was about to consume me entirely, a crackling noise filled the space around me. It was my walkie-talkie, a feature in the game meant for multiplayer mode. A familiar voice echoed, "Dude, can you hear me? What's happening?" It was Alex. He was on the line. He was in the game. The entity was closing in on me, its bone-chilling growl getting louder. Gathering every ounce of willpower, I croaked into the walkie-talkie. "Alex! Trapped! Help!" Static filled my ears for a moment. Then Alex's voice came through, firmer this time. "Hold on! I'm coming!" As his voice echoed in the hallway, the entity paused, its glowing eyes narrowed as if listening. A ray of hope pierced the darkness around me, but it was immediately followed by a horrifying realization. I had dragged my best friend into this nightmare. I wanted to warn him, tell him to stay away, to disconnect before it was too late. But my warning died on my lips as the entity let out an ear-splitting screech and lunged towards me. I scrambled back, my heart pounding, but I was cornered. Just as the entity was about to reach me, a door flung open down the hallway and a figure emerged. It was Alex. His game avatar was equipped with a spectral sword, a weapon I'd forgotten about in my panic. He charged towards the entity, his battle cry echoing in the hallway. I could see the entity recoil, its hideous face contorting in what looked like fear. The confrontation was a blur. Alex fought bravely, striking the entity with the spectral sword, while I watched, paralyzed with fear. The entity finally disintegrated, leaving behind a ghostly wisp that soon disappeared. Alex stood panting, his virtual avatar bruised but triumphant. But our victory was short-lived. The mansion around us began to rumble, the ground shaking beneath our feet. More spectral entities were emerging from the shadows, their eyes glowing ominously. "Dude!" Alex's voice crackled in the walkie-talkie, his avatar's determined face looking into mine. "We're going to get through this. We fight back, find the exit, and we wake up." I nodded, readying myself for the onslaught. Our nightmare was far from over, but at least we were in it together.